Think back for a second, not to the loud betrayals, the ones you see in movies with slammed doors and dramatic music. Think about that quiet moment, the moment something shifted inside you, the moment you realized you weren't going to let people get too close anymore, not because you were mean or cold, but because your survival depended on it. Most people see isolation as a personality trait, something you're either born with or choose. But what if it wasn't a choice at all? What if it was a protective instinct? A defense mechanism carved into your bones after life handed you a lesson too painful to forget. This is about that story, the one you might not talk about often, but that shapes how you see every relationship. The uncomfortable truth is that most people who choose to be alone didn't start that way. They were trained, and the training started early. It's not always the big betrayals that break us. Sometimes it's the subtle ones, the ones dressed as love, the ones that come from the very people who were supposed to protect us. Childhood doesn't just shape who we are, it teaches us what to fear. Picture yourself as a kid, small and trusting, living in a tiny world where safety is supposed to be guaranteed. Then that safety turns out to be a lie. Someone who was supposed to love you uses your trust against you. That's where it begins. The nervous system records it. The heart remembers. Even if your brain forgets, your body keeps the score. Maybe you shared a secret with a friend, something that made you feel exposed, and they turned around and made it a joke. Maybe your older sibling threw you under the bus to save themselves, and you took the punishment. Or maybe the betrayal cut even deeper. Maybe someone you trusted abused that trust in the worst way possible and convinced you that it was your fault. Maybe the people you looked up to turned your private struggles into gossip. Every one of those moments taught you a painful lesson. That intimacy is a risk and love can be used as a weapon. And so, the equation changed. People equals danger. Vulnerability equals weakness. Closeness equals threat. You stopped reaching out. You stopped sharing. You started protecting yourself from the one thing that hurt the most: disappointment. And here's the thing, that was smart. That was your younger self doing the only thing they could do to survive. But those strategies, as brilliant as they were back then, didn't come with an expiration date. They followed you. They followed you into adolescence, into adulthood, into every connection you tried to make. Now think about your teenage years, the battlefield of identity. You tried again, didn't you? You told yourself, maybe this time will be different. You opened up to someone, maybe a group of friends, maybe a crush. And what happened? They laughed, they lied, they left. Sometimes it wasn't even intentional. Maybe they just didn't understand you. Maybe they projected their own mess onto your sensitivity. But it didn't matter. The betrayal still landed. So you started building walls. Not all at once, but brick by brick, one disappointment at a time. You started telling yourself, I'd rather be alone than feel that again. And it worked for a while. You became guarded, careful. People had to prove they were worth the risk. And honestly, most didn't even try. They mistook your distance for arrogance or coldness, and they walked away, which just reinforced your belief that people don't stick around. And your brain? It was watching all of it. Teenage years are when your mind is rewiring itself. It's trying to figure out who you are and how the world works. If your early experiences taught you that closeness equals pain, then your brain logged that as a fact. It didn't care about fairness. It cared about survival. And it decided, don't get too close, ever again. So, you adapted. You stopped opening up. You started scanning every interaction for hidden motives. You began asking questions like, what do they want from me? What are they really after? How long until they betray me too? That kind of thinking doesn't come from nowhere. It's learned. And in the moment, it feels smart. It feels safe. You're in control. But what you don't realize is that control comes with a cost. Yes, the walls keep the pain out, but they also keep the love out. They keep out real connection, honest friendship, and intimacy that doesn't ask you to perform or pretend. Eventually, this armor becomes your personality. You get good at walking through life without needing anyone. You master the art of being surrounded by people while feeling completely alone. You look confident, self-sufficient, unshakable. People even admire it. They say things like, I wish I could be like you, so independent. But if they could see the truth, they'd know. They'd know that the independence wasn't freedom, it was fear. That the distance wasn't confidence, it was protection. That the solitude wasn't preference, it was survival. And now, you're here. An adult with a life you've carefully built to require no one. You don't rely on others, not because you don't want to, but because needing someone has always felt like handing them a loaded weapon. That fear of being hurt again never quite left. It's still in your nervous system, still shaping your choices. And even though you've learned how to be alone, even though you've mastered the art of appearing fine, there's a difference between being alone and being lonely. You've felt it. That ache deep in your chest when the noise dies down. Not the ache for attention, but the ache to be truly understood, to be seen for who you really are, and not have that used against you. You've built a fortress, strong, silent, and beautiful. But it's also a cage decorated with independence, guarded by strength, locked by fear. You avoid real closeness because it feels dangerous. You choose the safety of solitude over the risk of connection. And on the surface, it looks like a choice. But deep down, you know it was never really a choice. It was the only way you knew how to stay safe. Psychologists call this existential isolation. It's the feeling that even in a crowd, no one truly gets you, that you're speaking a language no one understands, that your inner world is so rich, so complex, so fragile, that it's easier to just keep it to yourself. You move through the world with smiles, with conversations, with surface-level relationships, but no one sees what's really going on inside. No one sees the version of you that was shaped by pain, sharpened by silence, and shielded by distance. And now, after years of mastering the art of isolation, you're at a crossroads, because the same instincts that kept you safe are now keeping you stuck. They've become so second nature that you can't tell the difference between protection and paralysis. You've started avoiding healing, not because you don't want to grow, but because healing would mean opening up again, trusting again, feeling again. And that feels terrifying. This is where the conflict starts. One part of you longs for connection, the part that dreams of being truly seen, accepted, and loved. But then there's that other part, the louder one, the one that slams the door the second someone gets too close. That part remembers the betrayals, the broken trust, the humiliation. And it says, don't be stupid, don't let them in, not again. So you end up stuck in this exhausting limbo, close enough to people to seem normal, far enough away to stay safe. And it works until it doesn't. Because you're not just tired, you're starved. Starved of real intimacy. Starved of the freedom to be vulnerable without fear. That's the paradox of isolation. It gives you power, but it also robs you of it. You avoid being hurt, yes, but you also avoid being loved. And what started as protection slowly becomes a prison. You convince yourself you're fine with surface-level connections. But then, late at night, when it's quiet and no one's around, you feel it. That quiet ache. Not for company, but for connection. For someone who won't use your truth against you. For someone who won't run when they see what's behind the walls. And this is where healing begins. Not in throwing away your solitude, but in redefining it. There's a difference between solitude and isolation. One is peace. The other is fear. Solitude is chosen. It's nourishing. It's the space where your thoughts breathe. Isolation is reactive. It's guarded. It's the shell you retreat into when the world feels like too much. Healing means updating the software your nervous system has been running since childhood. It means reminding yourself that not everyone will betray you, that not everyone who gets close is a threat, that love, real love, doesn't demand your guard down on day one. It shows up. It respects your boundaries. It earns your trust. And slowly, over time, it helps you lower the drawbridge. That's called earned security. And it's not some fantasy. It's real. It just takes time and the right people. The kind of people who don't rush your healing, who don't shame your caution, who understand that your silence isn't coldness, it's memory. The people who stay, who show up consistently, who listen more than they speak, who let your heart unfold at its own pace. You can have both. You can be independent and connected. You can be strong and vulnerable. you can protect your peace and still open your heart. You're not betraying your younger self by letting people in. You're honoring them. You're showing them that survival isn't the only story, that thriving is possible, that connection can be safe. This journey won't be perfect. You'll slip up. You'll get scared. You might even push away people who don't deserve it. But every time you stay present, every time you stay open, you're teaching your nervous system a new truth. Connection is not always danger. Love is not always pain. You were never broken. You were brilliant. You found a way to survive in a world that didn't protect you. And now it's time to live, to grow, to build something better, to take the wisdom your wounds gave you and use it to build relationships that feel safe, real, and reciprocal. Your new story doesn't begin when you trust everyone. It begins when you trust yourself enough to know who's worth trusting. It begins when you realize that you don't need to be completely alone to stay strong. That connection, real, honest, slow connection, isn't the enemy. It's the reward. If this message hits something inside you, then you're not alone. And you never were. There are others on this path, building bridges one step at a time. So, if you're ready to take that step, even a small one, say it out loud. Say it in the comments. Let others know they're not walking this road by themselves. Because healing isn't loud, it's honest. And it starts now.